when Uganda and Rwanda started the quarrels, 2018 there, they started slowly. You know, you cannot easily mark a date, but they reached an escalation point in 2018. In 2019, I wrote an article, and I said I have been an envoy of President Museveni to President Kagame and President Kagame's envoy to President Museveni. So I was a go-between. Said you should go back to March 2019. Because I was in Japan when the border was closed on February 28th, I must have returned about March 8th. So around mid-March, I wrote a long article. It's even a post, I have it on Facebook. I said, President Kagame had consistently told me what issues he had with Uganda, and I enumerated them. So I knew the issues. On the other hand, I had tried to, each time I talked to President Museveni, he said he doesn't have a problem with Rwanda. So, but when I meet soldiers, chiefs of intelligence of Uganda, ministers, they give these rumors on the side, Rwanda has not done this, Rwanda has done this wrongly. But these are things that are said in buzz. There's been no official communication between Uganda to Rwanda to say this is a complaint we had. So I said I'll write a second article to explain what my feelings are as the cause of this conflict, which was asking me about the individual, to remove the individuals. So that article was published in the Independent and was posted on Facebook. I did the second one, and it was never published. I was requested not to publish it, politely not to publish it. So
who requested? Okay.
So
you'd been asked to choose a side.
I was asked or warned. I don't know what to say. Just don't
put your thoughts out there.
Don't put your thought out there. So I will not go into the details of it. But the point I was making in that second article is that my own feeling is that there is structural stress between Uganda and Rwanda because they're involved in strategic competition, strategic security competition in this region.
Especially in the DRC. You talk about the DRC in this case?
In the entire region. I have this sense. Now remember, I'm trying to second guess President Yoweri Museveni.
Sure.
Because he has not given me his views, he holds his cards close to his chest. President Kagame was very open with me. I do not know whether there is any issue he felt in his heart, in his mind, which he did not share with me. So I feel very confident when I'm talking about his position. President Museveni, maybe he didn't trust me enough. Maybe he thought I'm Kagame's spy. And if I was in Museveni's shoes, certainly I would not trust him. When I would think...
He's Kagame's spy.
Yes. Although earlier on in 2011 and 2017, he had trusted me and they had been a go-between. So I felt when I look now as a geostrategist looking at issues of grand strategy, President Museveni has been the security czar in this region. So like right now we have our troops in Congo. We have our troops standing guarding and holding South Sudan together. We have our troops in Somalia and in Equatorial Guinea. So basically, Museveni is the go-to person if you are Americans or Chinese or Europeans or Indians trying to understand this region and do something in it, whether it's business, whatever you want to do. Now there is a very small neighbor, and you consider him a junior neighbor, who also is playing in that strategic market of security. So he has troops in the Mozambique,
Central Africa,
in the Central African Republic, in Congo, maybe something in Sudan, and I feel like things like that are likely to. They push into strategic competition in that space, and that leads to structural stress. So if you asked me, beyond the individuals, the UPDF and RDF are these organic militaries that were built from scratch. They are not inherited colonial armies that you see in other African countries. These are organically developed
revolutionary armies.
From the scratch, yes. The revolutionary armies. So it is unlikely that even if we change the individuals, it is not easy to construct peaceful coexistence. There would always be structural tensions resulting from that. And I take this also from looking at geographic space and historic time. Wherever a revolutionary movement has supported a neighboring another revolutionary movement in a neighboring country, they have always ended up in conflict. So the Russians supported the Chinese Communist Party. The two of them in 1980 went to war. The Chinese Communist Party supported the Vietnamese. In 1979, the Chinese invaded them. Uganda supported Rwanda. You know what happened. Eritrea supported the TPLF, supported the EPLF. The EPLF supported the TPLF to take power in Ethiopia. They went to war. So it is rare. The Vietnamese actually, Communist Party supported the Khmer Rouge, which was a Communist Party in Cambodia. Later, Vietnam invaded Cambodia. So Rwanda supported the Kabilas, and Rwanda, they fell out. So I have this sense that there is something inherent in the nature, in the structure of the DNA of these revolutionary movements, that when they're neighboring each other and they support each other, they tend to develop tensions.
I would think so. I had a retired diplomat, Mutawawa, on the podcast a few weeks back. And when I asked him about Rwanda's strategic alignment in the region, he said, everything lives and dies by interests. You know, you try to have discussions, but your interests come first. What I don't understand about, and maybe you can help educate me, is in the larger context of things, right? So even off camera, we're talking about Elon Musk, and he's going to soon be the first trillionaire in the world. I feel that as we are having these little, for us they're big, but in the wider scheme of things, they're quite small. These little tiffs, you know, is coming together. The Western world, not the Western world, the US is on the war footing. The Chinese are on a war footing, and not necessarily hot war, but a war of resources, a war of influence, a war of geopolitical significance. Why you'd think that two nations like ours that are not just married because of revolutionary backgrounds, we're literally married even physically. A lot. My mother is from here. My father is from Rwanda. I know so many people. Whether, you know, when we talk about the first 27, you know, out of those 27, you have, you know, great Fred Rwigema and Paul Kagame. You have Raboni, I think, from Toro, who was fighting in the RPA. Why our links are deep, even within, you know, the kingdom of Uganda and the former kingdom of Rwanda. The love is deep. The relationships are so deep. Why is it that even within what you've described, which is, you know, strategic competition, why does it have to be us against you instead of us against them?
First, I watched an interview recently of Julius Nyerere, a fine brain. Nyerere was arguing that the problem, he wanted to delay the independence of Tanganyika at the time so that Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, which had a common currency and common services, get independence on the same day as one country. He said the mistake of an East African Federation was to allow independence of each of these countries. Then, once you create lines on a map and say this is a country, a nation, and give it independence, people want to hold on to that what they have gotten rather than try to. So he's a very insightful person, which is surprising because in 1963, Nkrumah argued that regional integration will undermine African Continental Union. Anything you create will undermine the continental government. So Nkrumah was against regional bodies. Yes, which Nyerere was advocating. And Nyerere opposed Nkrumah at the OU conference between 22nd May to 25th May 1963 in Addis Ababa, because when Nkrumah argued that, Nyerere said, we don't have a Napoleon or a Bismarck who will conquer the whole of Africa. So we should go for regional integration. So I was surprised that actually I had already given an interview saying, once you allow the small thing to exist, it will create interest within that
small
geographic space. that will want to preserve it that way. So that is it. That once you have a country called Rwanda and Uganda, let me put this way. Remember that the RDF and the UPDF are the most serious militaries in Africa. Africa doesn't have armies. You've seen the South African armies. They couldn't even help Mozambique. They were in Mozambique before Rwanda went there. You are aware? And they did nothing. So South Africa is the most industrialized country in Africa. You have seen the army of Nigeria. That's the largest economy in Africa. It can't even kill a mosquito, that army. So the UPDF and the RDF are these powerful organic armies. If they worked together, they can turn many things around in Africa. If you are a European grand strategist, an American grand strategist, or a Chinese, or Indian, outside of Africa, your interest is not to have Uganda and Rwanda cooperate.
Exactly.
Because their cooperation is a threat to your interests. You are built to manipulate this region.
Yes.
When you set Kigali and Kampala at loggerheads, then you know you can exploit their conflict to get your way. Now, President Museveni,
so we know
President
this.
Museveni, I'm sure, and President Kagame see it. But can I tell you something? It's like a person who is addicted to cocaine or alcohol.
Yes.
You know that they know I have a problem of alcohol or I have a problem of drugs, but they just can't stop. So I think that the power is like other forms of addiction, that we sometimes think that people will follow a
logic,
or what you call the best, an optimum course of things. But I think human affairs don't work that way. It is very frustrating. And for me, because I was there, if I had been, I told you, I knew the Rwandan concerns. If I had full power to address them, I felt they were small. Okay, if they were small, they were things Uganda could address to their satisfaction. Now, of course, I'm not a Ugandan decision maker. It's possible that I am blind to certain interests, fears, and anxieties Uganda had, which were not told to me. And I'm sure the Ugandans feared to explain them to me because
you might be a spy.
I might be a spy. So, but even if I am a spy, I think I'm the best spy, because if you may want Kagame to understand your fears, you see, the only way I can resolve my conflicts with you is for you to be honest with me. So I could use Andrew MWENDA to send a message to Kigali that
these are the problems.
These are the problems. And they may appear to you in Kigali stupid, but for us they matter, right? And the people in Kigali are not stupid also. They could perhaps understand your context. But I felt, and remember, I'm constrained. I don't want to criticize my country, but I was really frustrated because I felt we as Uganda were not giving a clear position outside of bars and rumors and guys, security people meeting me by the street side or coming to my office and telling me rumors. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Uganda, the Ugandan security establishment did not raise these complaints officially to the government of Rwanda. So it becomes difficult if you are in Kigali's shoes. I'll give you a simple example. Rwanda sent us a list of 240 names with the files of people who were considered genocidaires or had been involved with FDLR. On each name, there was a file of details of what these people had done, and they wanted us to arrest them and send them back. And I clearly insisted it should happen. But Uganda also, this is Tumukunde was Minister of Security, said he had 1,000 people, whatever. They said Uganda had been arresting, or Rwanda had been kidnapping people from Uganda and taking them. Now, of course, there are people Uganda had officially arrested and officially handed over to Rwanda. And it frustrated me so much because the Ugandan security was claiming Rwanda has abducted these people. I said, okay, you give me the list of every Rwandan who was abducted by the Rwandan government from Uganda, and don't just give a name. I can go and write 500 names or 20,000 or 1 million. Give a file the Rwanda have given to us. These are the details. It was Sunny. He was arrested on this day from this place. This is a photograph. This is identity. There must be detail. A mere presence of a name does not tell anything. Tumukunde is still alive. As a Minister of Security giving me information of this type. It was so frustrating. So you want me to take these names? The other people who were there, I knew how they had been handed over. They had been handed over officially by government of Uganda. So, and Uganda was saying Rwanda kidnapped them. It became so frustrating for me. By the way, I should tell you, in 2018, I made a deliberate decision that let me stop going to Rwanda because people here are going to put me into a lot of trouble. I spent 4 years without going to Rwanda until MK, God bless Muhoozi Kainerugaba, intervened and had this matter resolved. Maybe you should interview him. He should tell you.
You'll see what you can do.
Because I had these issues. Up to now, I appeal to the Ugandan government and security establishment. Let them raise these issues they have with Rwanda and let us discuss with Rwanda. If Rwanda fails to respond appropriately, then we can hold them accountable and can say they have led to the collapse of the relationship. So that's why I'm advising you should go and read my articles then. We had issues with the electricity transmission line, we had issues with the standard gauge rail, we had so many issues where Rwanda felt Uganda is deliberately frustrating it, where I felt Uganda should explain what are the impediments. You may wish to know that at one time, I even called delegation of Uganda and Rwanda in Kigali, Minister of Finance of Uganda or Minister of Action of Uganda on this side, as if I was anything, to try to say, we agree in the meeting, have a position, we come back to Uganda, the Ugandans have changed. Or for that matter, what was agreed cannot be done. Now, let me again be kind and fair to my country. You've seen our roads are broken. So how can we are failing to do our own roads? Maybe you could say, Ugandans commit to many things they cannot do. Every day we promise we're going to do roads, we don't do them. We're going to build hospitals, we don't. Or sometimes we build ghost hospitals and ghost schools. Maybe this is where Rwanda needs to think about Uganda like this, that we have our own internal problems that make it difficult for us to live up to our own commitments.
Promises.
Yes.
So again, you've discussed something. So you've named some, what I'd call the old guard, right? Mukunde, and you haven't
then
mentioned...
there was the others. I never had discussions with them. They avoided me. Abel Kanduho was manufactured because he went and I had kids I used to take to Rwanda. They at Makerere University, I would rent a bus, take them because I wanted younger Ugandans to see what is happening in Rwanda, to show them it's possible to be a poor country with good infrastructure. There are things you can do. President Kagame always says this. It is not true that because we are poor, then we are fated to live in potholes and garbage. So I will take them to roads in Rwanda, which are community done. This is a road, all of us, we're in Kololo here. This is a very rich place. An acre of land here goes for $3.5 million. Can you believe that? $3.5 million. So the people who live here, each one of them is living in a house of $5 million, $10 million, or $6 million. Apartments of $500,000. In Rwanda, people come together and raise money and call the city authorities and say, we have raised this amount of money. What contribution can you do? We want to do our road here. And it's done. That is a sense of community, which is lacking here. So I will take these younger Ugandans to Rwanda to see these things, to the hospitals, to public parks, to see that a better country and a better city is possible. Uganda and Rwanda fall apart. Kanho begins arresting these kids. He would go to Facebook, imagine Facebook, where they posted pictures of themselves in Rwanda, says, these are Kagame spies. Some had joined the Air Force, others had joined ISO, others the UPDF, others, they were all over the state institutions of Uganda.
That's crazy.
That MWENDA had, and Kagame were plotting and placing them in all these. These kids were arrested for 2-3 years. I suffered enormous guilt on my head because I put them, some of them were in jail until MK took charge of the situation and started releasing. Yes. I don't want even to cry again on TV. It was so painful for me because these kids, I put them in serious trouble. What had they done? Nothing. They didn't even know anybody in Rwanda. The only connection to Rwanda was me. Now, all of a sudden in the Air Force, he's a Kagame agent. In ISO, he's a Kagame agent. In UPDF, in the police, they were all hounded out. Now, I asked Kando, one time I met with him at Saleh's place. If you are Rwanda, you see these things happening in Uganda. There's a time Tumukunde came and told me that I think he even called Kaka, actually. Kaka was the head of ISO. And on phone, that the Kagame had infiltrated 1,000 fighters in MWENDA there, about to come and take over government of Uganda. These fictions, I don't know whether the president in this country believed these things, you see. But this is the kind of information these people are peddling. So I don't know. The greatness of Muhoozi is to come and end this kind of impunity. People here in Uganda can do, but they could have taken 2 countries to war. Henry Tumukunde single-handedly could have caused a war by assuming Uganda not try to verify and also redeploy. You know, if Uganda deployed, Rwanda sees actual deployments and also deploys. Then all of a sudden you have an escalation. And let me tell you, in those situations, sometimes countries can go to war even when the two leaders of each country are committed to avoiding a war. Why? Because when a standoff is escalated, leaders may think that any form of withdrawal or stepping down, they may lose their aura of greatness or the authority to lead. So you can find a war breaking out. You should study, there's a book called Guns of August by Barbara Tuchman. It's about the outbreak of the First World War. How misinformation and miscommunication led the world into a conflagration. There's another book, Sleepwalkers. I can't remember the author. It's about the First World War. The First World War was a series of mistakes. And for me, having read those books, having spent a lot of time talking to President Kagame about these things, and of course talking to General Mhozi here, I'm always afraid that this Ukraine thing, you can have a nuclear war tomorrow. Ukraine is the worst thing to happen in the world. And people take it lightly. So, if you read the Peloponnesian War, both Archimedes II, the king of Sparta, and Pericles, the ruler of Athens, were actually personal friends, and they were committed to avoiding the war. But you should read Thucydides' story, the history of the Peloponnesian War. The war breaks out because of this miscommunication. So I was trying to show you, again, my side of Uganda, which I was seeing. And I felt people here were trading in fake intelligence or had maneuvers they were doing, which were quite risky.
Why would they do that? It does not seem.
I have not the slightest clue.
It does not seem clever or logical.
Sonny, I have no clue. I have no clue.
You know, it's scary because, you know, as the led, when we look at our leaders, sometimes a leader will do something and you'll say, I don't fully understand this, but maybe I don't understand it because I don't have enough information.
Correct.
It almost, from your little insight, it's giving me, I'm a little bit afraid because it then seems like the leaders actually don't know what they're doing.
It's possible.
And that they will throw us. And it doesn't have to be about Uganda or Congo. But then I think this is, Uganda and Rwanda. But because it's maybe telling me something about realpolitik and how intelligence services can mislead politicians, how interests can be misaligned. It's super scary. And again, as one of the led, I certainly hope that my politicians are not messing around with our lives, because these are real human beings.
To avoid things like that, you know, if I was a president of a country, thank heavens I'm not, is if your subordinates know that there are adverse consequences for doing things like that, they will never do them.
Here they are not. Isn't Mukwende going back to parliament? Isn't he a minister?
I do not know. But
no.
Anyway, he was removed. Yes. From that incident, he was, I think, removed 4 months later. I hope it's 1 or 2. I do not know.
I think he's minister now.
He's not.
He's not a
minister, yes. He was dropped, after that incident, he was dropped maybe within 4, that was in December, he was dropped in March. Whatever the reasons he was dropped, I don't know whether they corrected that incident or whatever it is. But that is my recollection of the events at that time. But you see, what I should tell you about governments do not act on the basis of truth. Governments act on the basis of information they have and believe to be true.
Or want to be true.
Now, the problem is that sometimes governments can actively manipulate, intelligence officials can manipulate intelligence information to achieve particular ends. So information may be given to a president in order to achieve an aim. A president can act genuinely, in the genuine belief that what he's doing is the right course of action because he's been given wrong information. So running the government is a very difficult business. Governments, of course, have intelligence and counterintelligence. But when your system gets compromised, you can end up acting
outside your own best interests.
Yes, you can be self-destructive. You should read a lot of the history of America, most recent history of America, about the involvement in Vietnam, how the American military and security and foreign policy establishment, when I say establishment, it's not just a ministry. the State Department, but the think tanks, the military-industrial complex that profit from this war and the thinking they have shaped, how they continually misled the government and themselves about the progress of the war until 20 years later. The Taliban were growing stronger and stronger. Now, this is the most industrialized, most sophisticated country with the best brains, the best universities. You should read a book called The Afghanistan Papers, or another book called something written by Scott Horton on Afghanistan. It is incredible to see how the US government would lie itself. The military would tell lies. They would do, okay, they would not tell lies, but they would manipulate the truth. Like they would say, the Taliban, the American casualties have gone up. Rather than say we are being beaten, they say it is because we have intensified our operations against them. That's why we're receiving a lot of casualties. If we hadn't increased. So the public thinks that, hey, now there is serious pushback that is happening. When America was there for 20 years and they spent $2.1 trillion and left military equipment worth more than 200 billion on the ground. Why? It's because they were lying to each other. So Uganda and Rwanda have to think about these things.
So your friend, when you were blessing the skies for Muhoozi, how, right now, at the time he was not CDS.
He was CLF,
yes.
Command of the Land Forces.
Yes. Now he is. What is he doing? Because he's one of the things that he loves to talk about is, he would tweet Rukundo Rugume, right? Let love continue between Rwanda and he's tweeted very positive things about the RDF and talking about the brotherhood between the UPDF and the RDF. Do you think he, as the CDF, understands? Because we talked about, when we're talking about the global order and, how these two armies are sometimes at loggerheads. Do you think with him at the helm of of the UPDF, that finally our two mighty revolutionary armies can sit down and actually map out a way to push our interests? Sit down, understand what our military interests are, how they align, how they don't align so that we don't knock each other, and how we then make things work for the both of us. Do you think he has that ability? Do you think that that's something that he wants to do?
So I first want to put a caveat on what I'm going to say. General Muhoozi is not the president of Uganda. He's not the commander-in-chief.
Sure.
So ultimately, he's not an honorary CDF. He's the son of the president. So to that degree, he has greater influence than any CDF was ever since General Salim Saleh. That's what I would imagine. Nobody can match the kind of influence he can exercise before. But we have to admit the fact that he is not the commander-in-chief.
Yes.
So the final decisions cannot be done by him.
Yes.
He can be overruled, he can be directed or instructed to do things. And he cannot defy any order given to him. I just want you to understand that.
Understand that.
Now,
what does he want?
So let me now begin with the person called Muhoozi. Of all the Africans, not just Ugandans, Africans or human beings on this planet that I've talked to, and I talked to many on grand strategy, he's, I think, one of the best read, well intellectually tuned to understand these issues we are discussing. The position of Africa in the world, the fact that our small countries face a serious security threat in the sense that our survival as viable nations cannot be guaranteed if you're not cooperating, if you're not friendly. So Muhoozi understands that. He has also, you've seen his tweets, he has a strong commitment to a cordial and wonderful relationship between Uganda and Rwanda. If you had the final say on these things, Rwanda and Uganda would have, I don't know, because you see, I don't think from how he thinks and how he approaches things and his attitude towards President Kagame, whom he admires immensely, his love of Rwanda as a brother country, we will not have these differences. Again, I can put a caveat that sometimes countries can have interests that conflict independent of the personal relationship between individuals. I told you about Archidemus II, the king of Sparta, and Pericles. By the way, I should tell you, Wilhelm II, the emperor of Germany, at the beginning of the First World War, was a grandson of Queen Victoria of England. So he was a nephew to Edward VII, the king of England, when the two countries went to war. So, and he had grown with his grandmother in England, spoke better English than German. So I'm always conscious of the fact that if I say an absolute, I don't know. But what I can say for now, my assessment is, one also wants a relationship between Uganda and Rwanda that is cordial because he believes it's for the benefit of the two countries. But it's also for the benefit of Africa because when the two of us quarrel, we weaken this continent. He understands the importance of strategic security and why African armies need to cooperate. So if he had his way throughout, Uganda and Rwanda would have a defense pact, joint military operations, would do all these things together. What other things would happen subsequently, I don't know.